Welcome to Roseflower Radio, the show that goes behind the scenes of your favorite independent artists and creatives. I'm your co-host, Micah Wilson.
And I'm your co-host, Finlay Matthias. With us today is an incredibly talented pop producer, singer, songwriter from Carson, Colorado.
What?
His previous project, Everything Started Out Beautiful, is on streaming services now. But his new song, Nail Biter, has just come out a few weeks ago. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Another Week.
Yeah. The crowd goes wild.
Howdy, fellas.
Our massive crowd.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We actually
mental.
record in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
It's just like 400 people just quiet, silently staring.
You're just very unenthusiastic about your... No. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I like being here.
Yeah, so you performed Nail Biter, your new song, as well as More Than I Would Like To on Roseflower Live, out now. So let's talk a little bit about Nail Biter, your new song. So you talked a little bit about how it's like about a, not a relationship, but a crush. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, do you want to tell me a little bit about where the song came about, that little situation? You don't have to give us too many details, but...
So it wasn't as specific to like one crush or anything. It was more of just when you start realizing the patterns, because like the thing is, I haven't been in like a legit relationship since like 2018, and I've been kind of I've been keeping it that way, not necessarily on purpose, but for my own sake, I kind of was like, oh yeah, it would probably be better, but it's just, you know, when you start catching them, you know, it's kind of...
It's a loss for words.
Sometimes I don't really think before I speak.
Loss for words.
It's more about just how those kind of feelings can start taking over your head and just really seep into your day, and when you don't want it to, makes it hard to do literally anything.
Yeah.
And that was more of what I was like capitalizing on, was just knowing that like I can like just kind of looking at myself being like, what are you doing? Like, why are you being like this?
Speaking of 2018, is that when you moved out here?
That is.
From Carson, Colorado.
Yes, it is.
So I'm from Colorado.
Yes, sir.
And like my knowledge of Kit Carson, I think I've been there once, maybe.
That'd be very surprising.
I think. I think, or maybe I'm thinking of something else, but like, where is that in Colorado? Because I can't remember.
Alrighty, so Kit Carson, Eastern Plains, like
you're East Colorado.
Eastern Plains, like closer to Kansas than anything else.
Oh,
I would say, aside from maybe like 2 or 3 towns between it, like between like us and the border. Grew up in a town of about 300 people.
Wow.
Consistently.
Damn.
I went to a K-12 school with about 120 other kids, and my graduating class had 6, including me.
Wow.
How
big was the school then?
Not big. Not big at all.
Y'all have a football team? Like half
we had a
school?
football team, 6-man.
Six. I thought you meant the football team was 6 men. I was like, only 6 people play football? Y'all play the whole team?
Not just 6, but a 6-man football team, yeah.
Interesting.
That was... Funnily enough, like the year, I can't remember if it was the year I got into high school or like the year before it, that our football program finally like came back, because we for a while didn't have enough people that wanted to play football, so we had to outsource the people that wanted to play football to a town about 20 miles south.
Yeah, could they have enough people?
Yeah, we didn't have enough people for our own football team, so we sent the people that wanted to play football down to a town like just down south.
Wow. So how does a kid from a town of 300 people in
that's what I was
Eastern
about
Colorado decide that he wants to be a hyperpop artist? You know, where did that come from?
When you say it out loud like that, makes me ask my own questions. Like, man, what the hell happened?
What am I doing? Where am I? What?
I don't know. Music has always been a very solo thing for me.
Yeah.
Like music was always listened to growing up, but like especially like in my family, no one like really like had a major like not like necessarily attachment to it, but just it wasn't like as prominent of a topic.
Yeah, like your parents aren't musicians.
Oh yeah, like
there wasn't influence.
I was the only. I'm pretty much the only musician in my family aside from like my great aunt Bonnie, who's like piano we have like in our living room area. It's like where I like practiced a lot. So
can I ask, is there any sort of music scene in Kit Carson, Colorado?
You know what? I don't know how the landscape has changed in the past year or so, but I can say safely no.
No, there's not even like a little bar where people play anything. No,
there's nothing of the sort.
Wow.
I think the closest thing is that town I mentioned. It's called Eads. And the closest thing that I can think of is a annual like festival like celebration. It was called the Main Street Bash. For a few years straight, I would do a gig there in front of pretty much only my family.
That's what's up, though.
It was.
At least they showed
it
up.
Still worked, and
I'm just saying, like, honestly,
they had to drive me there, so it would have been.
They're like, all right, have fun. You're like, wait, hold up.
Yeah,
we'll be back in 3 hours.
Yeah.
I did mostly like solo acoustic sets, and then occasionally I would play guitar for my cousin. My cousin Rhett. He's a country singer. So,
Shout out, Rhett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, honestly, fucking goat.
So then, where did music come from for you?
It was kind of a slow burn build up. Like I was writing songs since like the second or third grade.
Wow.
Okay.
But I don't think I ever started taking it seriously till around the 8th grade when I started taking piano lessons. I took them for about like 4 or 5 months before I started learning on my own, and I started playing piano for my church. But it was around then that I started picking up and just started writing more on piano, which I didn't really do. It was more just like a solo, like in my room thing whenever I could.
Totally.
But once I finally learned an instrument to it, it like really started. Like that's just
the catalyst.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I started picking up some momentum with it. For as long as I've like been listening to music, it's only really been whatever I felt like listening to. Like I grew up in a town of country and classic rock, and I only really listened to Skillet like when I was younger.
Can't bash it, brother.
Absolutely.
Skillet go hard.
But it was like at a certain point, I just like I didn't really want to listen to what everybody else was listening to, and so I just like that's where like YouTube was really sending me to some weird places before I eventually found.
You want to tell us who were you listening to, inspired by back then?
Yeah, I was about to say. I think like the biggest ones were like John Bellion and Eden.
Yep.
Which are like I feel like two very, very different artists, but I don't know, like especially but like their production styling like gripped me. And John Bellion has this amazing like YouTube series.
The making of
it's fantastic. Anytime that I need or I'm like feeling like just not in the mood to do music for whatever reason, I go back and I watch that series because it just gets me so hyped to do anything.
Yeah. I feel like there's a genre or like a class of artist / producer where like their music isn't super popular. They have a lot of they have a massive commercial success, but within music there are certain artists, producers, whoever, who have had such a massive influence on new music. And John Bellion and Eden are kind of the two that come up a lot. Yeah. And like, they're not the biggest artists in the world. They're fairly successful, but they're not like number one anymore, at least. I can't remember the last time John Bellion was up there.
It was all-time low.
Something like that, yeah. But they are, even still, just because of what they do and how they make their music, they have kind of gone down in the last, 5-10 years.
Yeah.
As kind of people who maybe their success wasn't there for themselves in like the grand superstardom sense, but they have inspired so many people.
Yeah.
Like, it's unreal.
I think it's one of those things where, like, you look at John Bellion or all these people who documented the making of, or, like, whatever. And it's so cool. Like, if you're interested in anything, like, you just be a fan of the song, and then all of a sudden you're like, what is that piece of gear? And then you start to Google search, like,
and now you're in.
It's interesting how, and I think that this is something that at Roseflower we're trying to do, too, where you're documenting, like, the growth, and you're, like, encapsulating a moment in time, Jared right now, and what he's doing right now. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I always love to think about this, like a hyper fan of yours, or I guess super, whatever, you know, like some super crazy dude who's like, oh my gosh, I need to know everything about Another Week and everything that he's ever done. You know, like you're cementing yourself right now, even just by hopping on this, that some person's going to find this at some point in the future, even if it's like your grandson or something crazy,
Yeah.
it's so cool to think bigger picture like that. And I don't know if, the artists like John Bellion or Eden or any of those guys, like, or even Felly is another one too, who did a bunch of stuff online where it's like, I don't know if any of those people are going to sit back and be like, oh man, like this was my whole plan to like, but they were just making music and that's all it was. And what blossomed from that is,
and that was enough to like give like artists and other creatives, especially like you guys, that idea, like holy shit, like I want like that kind of archive for like the shit that's being made by like all these like insanely talented people. Like not only just for like fans to look back at, but even like us, because like I'm gonna shamelessly rewatch like the shit out of this like years down the line.
And that's the whole point. So like, does that make you nervous, like looking at your future self, like being like, or your future self is looking back at you? Would you say that you would bite your nails if, looking back right now, thinking about that?
I think I definitely might. I might probably cringe a bit even.
So the question that I'm getting into is, are you a nail biter yourself? Is that because the name of the song is obviously Nail Biter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it was like half the reason I started painting my nails was so I would stop. Like
interesting.
Like cause I started doing them like when quarantine hit, and that's like when it got like the worst. I started like pulling my hair out and shit.
Wow.
But like I was like looking at him. It was something I've always wanted to do. Yeah. But then I found like a really good reason, especially because I bit like my pinky like way too close, and it just like hurt like a motherfucker,
dude.
Like it was like it's one of like it's like the inconvenience of it all that just like leaves an impact on your life,
Yeah.
And so I was just like, yeah, let's do it, and I did it, and I ended up really liking it.
So. Yeah, there you go. And talk to me about like your worst hangnail experience.
Oh God, I think. Now this isn't like
if you have an actual story.
It's not even like a singular experience because it's happened so many times. But like I think the worst ones are the ones you get on your thumb when you have to play guitar, because you gotta hold the pick and it's like right there.
Dude, I know. Oh my god.
You can't hold the pick for shit because it's just so warm and like painful. That's like the only way I can describe it.
No, I totally get what you're saying.
But it's the worst because like literally pretty much any finger you get that on, you try to play guitar or like you have to, especially like for like an assignment for school or something, like that those were the worst. Like I had some like songwriting classes that like I had to go to. I remember like that would just be I can't, like I said, there's not like a single experience. It's happened so many times.
Well, it was kind of a loaded question. Like, I mean, like, I just asked you about a hangnail activity, right?
Question,
yeah, sorry.
I got content for days.
Oh, yeah, facts. Thank you for carrying that on for so long. I was like, I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, I don't know, or something, and then just end of conversation. I'll be like, so.
So you mentioned just briefly a little bit there that we all we all met at music college here in LA. Mm-hmm. So how did you go from dude listening to Eden and John Bellion in Kit Carson, Colorado, to was there a specific moment where you decided that this is what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of Colorado, out of Kit Carson, get to LA in the end, and kind of find something for myself? Or was it more of a, let me get out of here and then figure out what I'm going to do?
It was a little bit of both. Because like when I started realizing that like music was something that I wanted to start taking seriously, it was like pretty close to the end of high school, and I wasn't sure at all what to do. Luckily though, so I had a music teacher who is basically the whole reason I'm even here in the first place, and she she gave me a lot of like extra like just mini classes. Me and my friend, who was like the only other like music oriented person in our school, so we had an extra class with my music teacher. Like that was basically like theory / like basically plan for your future if music is what you want to do. And so she was also the one that gave me piano lessons. Shout out Miss White. You're the goat.
Shout out Miss White.
You're the goat. But one of our assignments my junior year was look up like five schools that offer like music programs. Among like the 5 schools that I found, one offered a summer program for songwriters and producers.
Oh, that's cool.
That's dope.
And it ended up being the college I would end up going to, and it was a really fun one. I only went for a week. because there was like a 3-week program, but I ended up only going for like the second week, which was the songwriting program.
Okay.
And I fell in love. It was amazing. It was like probably the most memorable experience like in like any of my memory. And when I got back, I was really nervous about how much I liked it because how like small town Colorado, I was thinking like, there's no way in hell my parents are going to let me like just pack up and leave. Like very few people do that. There was like one other person I knew that tried doing that. Didn't really end up going well for them.
What, do music or leave?
Yeah, they tried doing music, tried doing the whole California thing. Didn't really end up boding well for them, and so they ended up coming back. And so that made me nervous. I was like, shit, like, am I gonna like have the guts and the gusto to do that?
They did, yeah.
But everyone was, to my surprise, very supportive.
Nice. That's
cool.
Which is just an amazing feeling that I'm very grateful for. And so it was like towards the end, 2017. I applied to the school. Got accepted. It was like, holy shit, like the best moment of my life so far. In terms of just like the adrenaline that I felt in that moment when I got that email, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's a big validating moment for you.
Very much.
Like maybe one of the first when it comes to your music, like a very like, you are good at this. Here's some validation. You actually have some potential here moment.
Totally.
Right?
It was big. It was really big.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you you kind of mentioned your family were super supportive. Did you get any pushback? Was there anybody who was kind of like, look at this kid, fucking loser?
If I did, they never said it to my face.
Yeah.
That's the way you want it. Yeah.
So, because straight up, like, no, I didn't really get any pushback, which is just insane to think about because I don't know. That's all I feel like I heard, like growing up, like with those like small town like stories, you know, just like people trying and usually just receiving a lot of pushback and them having to work past that.
Yeah.
And so getting that kind of story with the support, it's generally like when I release anything nowadays, or even like just snippets of stuff. If I drop like a demo on SoundCloud, I try my best to like send it to my mom because I know she, because if I do send it to my mom, one, I know it's something that she would like, and two, I know that it like is more or less like appropriate. So but she
you get the mom check once you get the mom pass. You're
but
like,
she's also the goat of like promoting it. Like she will send that shit to anybody. Like
she got a Discord with all of Kit Carson.
Yeah, right.
She's just sending it through.
The Kit Carson Discord. Put me on, bro.
Yeah, and it's just funny because like I'll go back home for like a week or two, maybe a month, depending on like what's going on, and it's always a little more refreshing, like each time.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So you kind of said you always hear that small towns, you know, there's a lot of pushback. People are closed-minded, this and that. As somebody who grew up in a small town, do you maybe want to disprove or push it back? Is there anything you want to clear the name of small town America a little bit in any way? Is there anything you want to say isn't accurate? You want to set the record straight when it comes to small town America that you feel like people assume or get wrong?
Keep in mind, your entire town will be hearing this.
Oh yeah, no, they're all going to be watching this. Hi guys.
You got the smoke. If not, there is smoke handed right your way. They're like, don't you disrespect Kit Carson, man. You know, whatever.
I mean, I got to be honest, man. There's not like a lot to like disprove. It's like all pretty accurate, but not like in the way you think. Not in like the necessary like negative sense. It's just a very, very strong, like bone deep community.
I was gonna say there must be. I mean, 300 people. You can probably know by name everybody.
I
in
know
the town.
pretty much. Like and. That doesn't attest for my really bad memory sometimes because like there are people that come from out of town that everybody knows, and like there'll just be the occasional person that was like, you knew me when I was a baby, and that I probably don't know you as well.
I don't know if they can blame you for.
But you probably are friends.
Them.
But those are people that are probably like really good friends with my mom or my dad or something. That like I probably just don't have the greatest memory of. But for everybody in like that town, I have.
That's crazy.
I have a very like
in a town of 300 people, you're not going to get along with everybody. But just the fact that you know everybody is pretty.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And even I may not be as close with everybody as I want to be. Like especially as the years pass and I start getting busier and I start doing my own thing. I find myself not keeping up with people as much as I would like to. which always sucks, but it just kind of became the norm. You know?
I think
And
that's life a little bit.
yeah, exactly.
Totally.
You grow up and everyone else is doing their own thing. And
Yeah.
so they're allowed to live their own life. And I'm very grateful that I was able to choose this flavor of life, which I will say I'm very happy that it is different. Like, I really don't think I would have been happy if I ended up doing kind of the same thing that I feel like a lot of people end up doing. Not to bash it, obviously.
And can I ask, because I don't know much about small town life, what exactly is that? What would be the standard journey after high school for someone in Kit Carson?
Marginally, a lot of people will find work on local ranches or farms. Especially the boys, like they'll that's typically what pays for their summer, especially. Like fresh out of high school though, a lot of people find like labor heavy jobs, which I grew up doing, but obviously is not like my forte.
You're saying you're not absolutely hench, bro?
I'm not saying
you're
that.
saying you can't chuck hail,
big
bro.
body.
Oh. You can't chuck bays
Look,
of
I'm
hail,
not saying
bro.
that I'm absolutely stacked, but like, it's definitely just it definitely just became more of like a preference thing.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't appealing to you. You wanted to see what else was
and
out there.
I have mad respect for people that were able to do that. Like,
Totally.
and especially because they're making bank. There's a kid I went to school with who's literally a day older than me, already owns property, already is married. Haven't caught up with him in a bit, but
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
To be fair, sounds like he's got life going on.
Dude,
so.
yeah, and he's handling it pretty well.
Like a champ.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you where did the term or where did the name Another Week come from?
Straight up just social studies. Like I just I wanted to go by Jared West for a while, but
Like Paul Kanye.
yeah, but that the more I heard the name back to me, I was like, that doesn't sound good. Not even like a Kanye thing. I was just like, man, that just doesn't sound good.
Yeah, totally.
I wanted to go by my middle name Jacob for a bit.
Jacob Weeks.
But Jacob is so like, Jacob is my.
Did you go by JJ?
I do not.
I have asked him this so many times, and I call him JJ, and then he gives me a look, and I feel like he doesn't like it, so I don't.
It's not that I don't like it. It's something that, like, look, I welcome nicknames all the time. Like,
Well, we already got Jer Bear, so we don't
I was
necessarily.
gonna say
need another nickname.
there's a lot of nicknames.
All right, JJ. I won't call
JJ
you
feels
that, don't worry.
easy. That's all I'm saying. JJ feels easy.
Yeah, you're not trying hard enough on your nickname game, Micah.
Damn, sorry, my bad. I'll take a step up. Let me go outside. I'll think a little bit. I'll come back. I'll be like,
think about what you said.
But legit, I think I was just sitting in social studies one day, and I think it literally just popped in my head. Like I was just like, Another Week. I was like, and I went onto my YouTube where I was like posting covers and shit, and I just typed it. I just like went to my profile, changed the name, looked at it, and I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I think if I combed, this is a new phone. I probably deleted it anyway. Oh, and I deleted my old Snapchat anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. Like somewhere there was a picture
in the archives. The FBI
exactly.
has
There was a
it.
picture of me being like, "What do you guys think?" Like, back when it was like 86 subscribers.
Let's go.
And then where did the your logo, right, is the A and then the W underneath, kind of creating like a pyramid kind of triangle kind of thing. Where did that come from? Did you just come up with that? Is it like kind of you saw another logo that's kind of similar, like, oh, I could do that with the AW, you know, like where did like the two triangle kind of AW come from?
That was also kind of like something I was just like doodling in class one day. There were a few different variations of it. I had one, but then I realized it was too close to like Alan Walker's logo, where it's like the hollowed out A, which I still ended up going with, but I just decided to keep it more like separated. So, and I always like want to hand draw it. Anytime that's on, I don't want to keep like a PNG of it and slap it on. I always want to make it like slightly different each time, like as if it's like a signature or something.
That's cool.
Which brings me to my next point. You hand draw all of your cover art text and your logo every time. I knew you redo it every time as opposed to just having a copy paste.
Yeah.
Is there a specific, you just want it, is there a look that you're going for with that? Is it just that you can't be bothered to make a PNG to copy over? Like what's the, where did it come from? Just kind of hand drawing all of the text and everything for your cover art.
I feel like it just ended up being the easiest way to have a unique style while also not needing to spend a dime on like fancy fonts or anything.
That's fair.
I really want to be as like, not like cost effective necessarily, because I'm not like a financial genius whatsoever, but if I can go and do something without having to pay for it, I will.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
So-
it's free to draw on your
Exactly.
draw on
It's
your
free to
phone.
go into just your Photos app and just like pick out a marker and like, fuck around with the colors and shit and just.
So it's not even an app. You're just doing it on the.
I just do it in Photos.
Oh, I assumed you had an app. That's fucking sick.
I just do it
Honestly,
in
that
Photos.
is dope.
It's cool to me to hear that because I'm also sitting here where you're like, oh, I came from this tiny town and like,
Yeah.
like from the get-go, you're an individual. You're like not an outcast, I'm going to say, because I assume that
No.
everyone accepted you. That's what you said. But it's more the sense of like, you're doing things differently from the jump. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And like, that's cool because then all of a sudden you're doing your, like, that transitions and translates into your music, into your logo, into your out. Like, that's just a cool thing I feel like I've noticed. But that's,
Thanks.
you got the swag, bro.
Thank you, man.
Man's got the
swag.
sauce.
And the swag came in the first sense in the EP. Everything started out beautiful.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right?
Yes, sir.
Micah's dapping me up. because
Come on.
that was a beautiful segue. I'm so proud of that.
these are catching me. It's like
But so everything started out beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You started working on that was quite an old project that kind of came around again a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because for those of you who don't know, Jared and I worked on his first EP. I want to say 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Woo. It would have been about this time 3 years ago. No, about
it was-
two and a
it
half.
was-
About 2.5 years.
it was
ago.
2019.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like late 2019, early 2020. So about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember this dude. He was like, bruh, I don't know about this. He brought this song, I Need the Water, right? And he played it to me in a DAW lab. Just like he opened the Pro Food session and he played it to me. And I think it was maybe like the second or third time that we've met. And I was just like, in my head, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but in my head, after hearing that song for the first time, I was just like, holy fucking shit. Mike, I don't know if you ever heard this song.
What's it called? I Need the Water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Kanye, like,
Oh, it's
in
very
his
much,
Jesus
it's
Arc
very,
sample.
The first few times, the first few, 2 or 3 people at least, I played this mix to after I did it, bawling. Izzy, first 3 times she heard the song, falling. Andrew, falling. Adam, a little bit, falling.
I make people cry.
This song hits so fucking hard. And it is unreal. So
Is
you
it
wanna-
out?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's been out. Yeah,
it's been out since
for
the end of 2020.
December 12th, 2019.
So
I know what
it's
I'm
been
gonna-
out for a hot sec.
I can't. Hey, I'm just gonna go home and just cry today. So
I also did a shit job at promoting it. So y'all need to go listen to that EP before I drop my next one.
But on that note, do you want to tell me a little bit about where that song came from? Because that song is genuinely one of the most like touching, especially your vocal performance, is
Oh.
one of the most emotionally touching songs that I have ever heard. So you want to tell us a little bit like where that came from?
So actually, I think two of those songs on that EP came from songwriting assignments,
Interesting.
including "I Need the Water" and "Really Really Bad." One was from my private lesson teacher, who basically just said, "Yo, just the entire song has to be a metaphor. It like no room for anything straightforward." Because I feel like my songwriting style has always been trying to, not necessarily trying to, but it's always ended up being super straightforward and
Yeah.
like to the point. But so this was a genuine challenge for me. But I went to the beach with my buddies, and I think it was like due the next day or something like that. And so I went to the beach with my buddies, and I think "Oh Mexico" by Jeremy Zucker was playing on, and I really liked the vibe of it. And I think it's a little fuzzy, but like I ended up writing the song like when we got back home and playing it for my private lesson teacher the next day. And
was it inspired by your trip to the beach? Was that the
because I ended up like looking at it and wait, okay, it's all coming back to me. So basically what happened was I went in and I got like fucking tossed by the waves. Like I was exhausted by the end of it, and I was just like crawling back out. Like my buddies were still out there, but like I was like done in a bit. I did a few flips and I was not having it anymore. And so I went back and laid back down, and like they were still out there. And as they were coming back, I was just like, I want to go again.
Yeah.
It ended up being like pretty much kind of the same vein as like, going into a relationship with somebody and things just never go well, but you just can't like stop for some reason going back to it like you both do, and it just ends up like hurting a little bit more each time. You get slammed against the rocks, or like you're getting tossed around, but for some reason it's just got this like addicting quality to it. Like,
that's a really, really awesome story behind the song. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty fucking sick. But so that EP came out 2019. 2020. And then there was a little pandemic happened.
Something in the middle. I can't remember.
Some shit happened. Whatever. But and now you've come out of the pandemic, quote unquote, out of the pandemic as if it's over. Sounding very different to I Need the Water and this other song you mentioned, Really, Really Bad. Do you want to talk to me? How do you think if it wasn't for the pandemic, you would have made such a large genre hop? Or do you think that because of the pandemic and you all of a sudden had so much time for like a little bit of an introspection that you realized that you wanted to change genre? Do you think if there was no pandemic, we would still be getting I Need the Water, Really, Really Bad, Jared Weeks, as opposed to Nail Biter, More Than I Would Like, really, Jared Weeks?
I think a big reason for like why I was like hopping around between genres so much, especially during the pandemic, so like I was cooped up at, funnily enough, Carissa's house.
I remember this.
For like 3 months. Like everything being on my laptop was like just a really weird experience. But I spent most of, if not all of my free time just working on production, which was something I was pretty solid at the time, but I didn't really have like a lot of like, nuance or anything super unique to it. It's like everything was like MIDI drums. I knew how to record guitar. I knew how to play like a MIDI bass, and I knew how to like add basic synths and shit. But like as time during the pandemic went on, I felt like my detail work like expanded immensely, especially because 2 of like my favorite albums dropped that year. It was Love Is Not Dying by Jeremy Zucker, which dropped the day before my birthday. So that that one's got me hooked. But Punk 2 by Breakins.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about this album.
That album dropped and it changed my perspective on music almost completely overnight. Like, I just never knew that stuff could sound so like distorted and like borderline just messy and just but still come through so like cohesively. And it just made me want to like, it didn't really make me want to reinvent myself necessarily, but I went through like the break-ins phase. I feel like a lot of people went through.
Yeah, you went through you wanted to see what else was out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it opened up my door to hyperpop, which was something I needed whenever I wasn't able to go outside and get some energy out. It like was the best way to like get my brain to
just scream into autotune and alter boy.
Like.
Yeah, no, that is
crazy.
That's pretty cool. So, and then also just kind of expanding on that a little bit. So, hyperpop in general over the pandemic has gone astronomical. Like before the pandemic, I was just behind a little bit.
Yeah.
100 gex.
Yeah.
Are probably the only people I could name before the pandemic. And even then, I could give you Money Machine and Stupid Horse.
Yeah, there you go.
Is all I could give you. And now it feels like every other person on my TikTok page.
They became a cultural phenomenon.
So do you think without the pandemic, hyperpop would have still come through in the way that it did, just kind of pushed a little bit, kind of taking that Aiden energy, but also like that break-ins. I don't think break-ins would be as big as he is without the pandemic.
Totally.
But do you think that without the pandemic, do you think hyperpop would have blown up? Or because everyone was at home, like you said, just trying to burn energy, all of a sudden people were making crazy music and people realized that we actually like crazy music?
I don't even know if I could say whether.
Yeah, that's
I've thought about it.
It's a very interesting thought though that I've wondered too. Like, not necessarily like whether it would have popped off the same way without the pandemic, but if it like if something else wouldn't have come in and stole the spotlight in that sense. Like what other like underground sounds would have come through?
Totally.
Because like as the years go by and the internet just gets faster and faster and trends are dying and coming in faster than anybody can process.
Yeah.
And so I feel like hyperpop became like the embodiment of the internet. Like, but like also like just exposing how just batshit crazy it can be.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think, but it's also just a reoccurring music thing.
Yeah.
You know, like the music and what we create as artists or creatives or whatever it is, fill in the blank, is created by our environment. Like in the same regard, like you look at like the Vietnam War, then all of a sudden there were war protest songs and all these things happening, and then civil rights movement, and then that happened, and then also even like you could like how many politics songs are there, you know? And it's like it's one of those things that for the first time ever we had access to everything in the world, and also we couldn't see anything in the world at the exact same time. So it just opened up this like this back door of creativity, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like, fuck yeah, make a country song with a slapping 808, and then like Lil Nas did that.
There's nothing else to do right now. Yeah,
and like because you're stuck at home. People are dying, and you're just like, well, I'm scared, and
that's even before the pandemic.
Well, yeah, that's facts.
Yeah, well, I think also part of it was some hyperpop lyrics are some of the most like blunt, emotional,
totally
not like poorly written in the sense that they're not metaphorical, in the sense that they are foregoing metaphor on purpose.
They're so straight up, and they will call it as it is, and it's so and that's just where you will get some of the funniest shit you'll ever see. I think especially it being like a generational thing, like Gen Z being so like the internet is in their blood at this point. Like they had no choice in the matter. And so you get that plus TikTok's like surge in popularity over the pandemic.
Totally.
I don't know. You just got this whole generation of kids with ADHD that just can't sit still for the life of me. I mean, like that's not like a generational thing necessarily, but like I just think it was such a perfect storm that I think hyperpop was the only thing that could satiate people.
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting. Yeah.
like around the internet. Not necessarily, and so who knows what would have happened if people weren't stuck inside and TikTok didn't get that infamous like blow up in popularity.
Yeah, I'm also a big believer in the idea that TikTok wouldn't be where it'd be without TikTok would be like it would be big. It'd be like Twitter in my mind without the pandemic. But nobody had anything else to do except scroll the app that gives you instant dopamine every time you scroll.
And on top of that, it's like everybody was going through this very universal experience that you had it had no choice but to become like the place to find like relatability through that time that nobody could do anything. Everyone, it sucked. Nobody was happy, and we were all sharing it, and it was amazing.
It was amazing in the worst way.
Exactly.
So question for you is, let's say this is the question that I love to ask everyone when they come on is like, you said you're going to watch this like years from now, and I hope you do. Hi, hope you're doing well.
Hi, 30, 40, 50-year-old Jared. How you doing, bro?
No, but it's one of those things where it's like, do you think that looking back on where you are now, like if there's anything in your life that you would have changed or wish you could have done better, or in that sense, just is there anything that you were like, oh man, like I wish I wasn't worrying about this way back then or whatever, like looking back on your life now and then future looking back. I'm going to rephrase that.
Yeah, are you asking him if he regrets the life he hasn't lived
No.
yet?
I'm saying...
Or do you think like there's something I'm gonna regret?
Yeah, what do you say? Do you know something we don't, Micah?
Is this how I get exposed?
No, but it's one of the... no, it's good.
FBI opened up.
Yeah.
You see these screens? They're all behind, bro.
No, but the question is basically like looking back on your life and coming from a small town into where you are now, or like, and having to deal with COVID and like is there anything that you wish you did differently or anything in that sense?
I guess I just wish I gave myself a little more credit a bit earlier on. I'm a very self-deprecating person. This is going to get a tad real, but I generally am kind of my least favorite person a lot of the time. And it really hasn't been until lately that I've started just going a little easier on myself and knowing that, hey, you got skills, you got a lot like backing you, you know, you got a lot of people backing you, and for some reason you're the only person that doesn't see what they see, and I feel like that's a very that's an experience that like I talked like that when I talk to people about it, like they relate pretty heavily to it, and it's just made me realize, oh shit, like, but these people, like, I see what they don't see, and so that was something that just kind of woke me up like pretty recently, just being like, wow, I could be doing so well if I just let myself.
Yeah.
And so
I love that. That's a really, really good way to put that.
And ironically, this is going to kind of segue into me, like in the new project I'm working on, where I'm like kind of airing out these like grievances about just things that like got me hooked, like just kind of got me hung up a bit. And like with this project, it is mostly like relationship shit, but I've always seen it as about like certain aspects of those relationships that I was like really holding myself back and keeping myself from being like the truest version of myself, but just disguised under the guise of just like these like relationship songs.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And so I would say just like my only like real regret is that I didn't like go through that realization sooner, which I don't know if I could have controlled, but I think I could have.
Yeah.
That's
saying
cool.
that out
And
loud.
it's cool to hear that now, where you're just like, well, the first relationship you need to fix is yourself.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then with that, every relationship is 20 times easier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
'Cause-
kind of
Yeah.
in that same vein, we are almost out of time here, but I do have one final question that we do also like to ask a lot of people, which is, if you let's go back to 2018 Jared, maybe, you know, he's about to leave Kit Carson out to LA, or even go back before that, you know, young Jared, you know, he's just starting to write music for the first time. He's going on YouTube, he's finding Eden and John Balian for the first time. If you could go back in time for like 30 seconds, you just appeared in front of yourself, you had 30 seconds, what are you going to say? Do you have any advice for yourself? Anything you wish? Like, if you just appeared in front of yourself,
what if it happened right now?
Yeah, that 50-year-old Jared we were talking to earlier just appears.
He's like, hello, dude, stop eating pickles.
But yeah,
just kidding.
is there anything you would say? You have any advice for that Jared?
Trust yourself. Like, cause I really don't trust myself a lot of the time. Even now, like, I would say there's still like a lot of work to be done there, but like, I think that if I had just put a little more faith in myself when I was younger, I feel like I'm not saying necessarily that like the path I've been on has been bad necessarily. It's just been a bit bumpy, which I think is like, you know, fair. It's something that like everybody's got to go through. But I think if I could have told anything to myself, like when I was like about to leave, it would just been like, yeah, just know that you got this in like the most literal sense possible, because I don't think I would have ever pictured this. Like, especially like just having as many like, you know, buddies that I got that are like
the homies, bro.
Yeah, exactly. That are able
That's
to
what it's about.
not only make this possible, but just make me feel better about the whole thing, and just help me understand that, hey, like you got like mad talent, you got skills, like what you do is awesome, and just I don't know, like it's become like a perpetual. I want it to become a perpetual motion machine, like where I can stop like only doing this because everybody is saying these things, and just do it for myself eventually, which I feel like I've
do it because you believe those
exactly
things.
instead of doing it because other people are saying it's good and saying that I like, you know,
have to do it, or like just because you want to do it because you believe in you, not because other people believe in you.
That's what's exactly.
And I think that's a sentiment that I think most people can relate to, and I also think it's a really great one to end on.
Totally.
So Jared, thank you so much for coming out. This has been awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Always is.
It's so much fun having you. Watch Jared's episode of Roseflower Live out today, out now. Woo, woo, woo.
Stream nail
Woo,
biter.
woo, woo. Jared, so if you want to plug anything you want, you got that camera, your socials, your projects, your newest song, Nail Biter. Give us the deets, bro.
Stream nail biter. Stream more than I would like to when that drops. It's dropping soon.
Under the name Another Week.
Under Another Week, yes, sir. And look out for my next project. It's called A Bit Crushed My Head to Death So I Would Stop Overthinking.
Which is a fucking sick album name. I even know that. Micah, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Micah W Music and Twitter also at Micah W Music.
Nice. And my name is Finlay Matthias. You can find me at Finlay Did It on Instagram. That's kind of it. You can find Roseflower Records at www.roseflowerrecords.com. Our new Twitter at Roflo Records.
What?
Crazy, bro.
That
on
username.
Instagram at Roseflower Records. And for more episodes of Roseflower Radio, please check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as here on YouTube. Jared, thank you so much for coming. This has been awesome.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.